Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher, author, filmmaker, and the founder of Impeak. My guest on today's podcast is Jimmy Sung, a Bitcoiner, educator, developer, and entrepreneur, and one of the most popular personalities in the Bitcoin community. I had listened to Jimmy on many podcasts, and I knew that he was really against the rest of the crypto space, including Ethereum, and the whole concept of Web3 in general. Naturally, I really wanted to talk to him. There's nothing better than being able to have a dialogue with people that you disagree with. I have to say that this was a tough conversation because Jimmy and I disagree on a lot of things. I see blockchain technology as interesting and revolutionary in itself, with application to many other things beyond Bitcoin. Jimmy not only disagrees with me, he tends to be rather hostile towards everything Web3 to a point that he calls the whole ecosystem a scam and even immoral. That was a tough pill to swallow, but I listened and engaged and tried to see things from his perspective. Jimmy, thanks for being here. I have listened to a lot of your interviews. There are quite a lot of things that you say that I agree with. There's also a lot of things you say that I disagree with, but that's okay. Just the fact that you have actually agreed to have this conversation is a good sign so that we can actually have a chat about it. The problem I have a lot of times with people who are, too, I guess, radical, no matter what point of view, whether they are radical about Bitcoin, whether they're radical about Ethereum, whether they're radical about, veganism, it can be anything, right? A lot of times they're not even open to discussing it with people who have a wider, point of view, or or for people who are actually just exploring things and learning about them. So I do appreciate you, despite being a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm guessing, is that the right word to use to describe your point of view? But I'm quite touched that you actually agreed to talk about it.
I mean, I already told you before this interview that I'm going to tell you the truth, and you're probably not going to like a lot of what I have to say. And this happens all the time. And I've gone on a lot of these shows, and people enjoy it. And I want to make sure that your audience gets the story of why I'm a Bitcoin maximalist and why I think stupid stuff like Web3, NFTs, altcoins, DeFi, all of that is just an excuse for money printing. It's an excuse to scam. It's an excuse to get people to pour money into stuff that they don't understand. And, Silicon Valley VCs get rich while, people from the country that you're from, like the one of the biggest coins in Iran right now is Ripple. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. They're buying Ripple, which is a complete pre-mined scam coin. They're under investigation by the SEC. The only reason they haven't capitulated is because they have so much money that they can hire the absolute best lawyers to try to confuse the issue, essentially. But what's happening in this space has been happening for a long time. I've been in it since 2011, and basically the first altcoins came mid 2011. Since then, it's been a nonstop fight to get all these altcoiners to really admit basically that they're printing their own money, that they're enriching themselves at the expense of the poorest and most vulnerable people in the entire world.
I wasn't aware of the Ripple thing with Iran. I know that Bitcoin is something that a lot of people in Iran trying to mine, and it's. I didn't know anything about the Ripple case. I haven't lived or been, haven't even traveled back for 17 years, so I still have family there, but most
I mean,
people.
you should probably ask them, because like you can go look up the stats, but like Ripple is consistently traded over there. And think about what that means. Like Bitcoin actually gives people in Iran the ability to save without debasement, because as we all know, there's a significant economic sanctions going on in the country, and it's not the people of Iran's fault. It's the fault of the people that are in power. Now, they actually, like, Bitcoin has real utility, but instead of focusing on that, they're focusing on gambling, which is essentially what they're doing by trading altcoins and stuff like that. That to me is tragic. You have this wonderful, wonderful tool that allows you to save and work towards something, maybe even getting out of the country or changing the leadership or whatever. But instead, they're focused on degenerate gambling. And that to me is like the worst thing, because these two worlds couldn't be more different. You have freedom money and you have degenerate gambling, enabled by VCs, and where basically the VCs and the rich people that make this stuff, they're the house in a large casino. That to me is, it's unconscionable. I don't understand how anyone could support this stuff. That's like when you have a clearly superior thing in Bitcoin, like, and this is why I'm so negative towards stuff like Web3, DeFi, NFTs. All basically they're all altcoins.
Okay, got it. I mean, like I said, I didn't know anything about the Ripple thing. I don't use Ripple. I don't, it's not something that I support. Let's talk about Bitcoin because look, on this show, I talk about everything to do with technology. You know, I call myself a tech philosopher. I look at the philosophy of technology, and I'm pretty, I would say, technology agnostic. And, you know, I study blockchain just the way that I study artificial intelligence, you know, and any other technology, you know, genomics, etc. The reason why I find blockchain technology interesting is because of this metaverse thing that we are going into, and increasingly, you know, we are going to be living in a more and more digital world, but I do talk to people from a lot of different kinds of backgrounds. So there are many people on this show that have talked about Web3 and other areas, NFTs, etc. But I want to hear from you about Bitcoin. I want to hear from you about a few things that you have repeatedly talked about to do with decentralization. Now, one of the questions that I always get from people whenever I talk about Bitcoin being decentralized is people often tell me, how can you say Bitcoin is decentralized when, you know, a small percentage of people own so much of it? You know, they look at people like Michael Saylor and they're like, you know, like he owns such a big portion of it. Then they talk about, you know, that 1 million Bitcoin that we don't know, you know, what's happening to it and who owns it, and how can we guarantee that it won't be moved, that the person doesn't have access to it, etc. So what's your answer to that? Look, I understand that from a technological point of view, Bitcoin is decentralized, and the way that it's mined and the way that it's you know, it's control resistant. But what would you answer to people who talk about such a big portion of it being owned by a small group of people?
Then you don't understand what decentralized means. It's a technical term. There's no
No, I
center.
understand it, and
Yeah, yeah, but I
I
mean,
explain it to those people, right?
mhm.
But for most people, they look at it and they say that, okay, I get the technical aspect of what decentralized mean, but how about the fact that so much of Bitcoin is owned already? You know, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, but what's your answer to the fact that
I mean, again, it's a confused sort of understanding of what decentralized means, and this is part of the issue with altcoins. They confuse the term decentralization and make it mean something completely different than its technical definition. And I blame all the altcoiners for confusing this issue, because they say, oh, decentralization is a spectrum. You know, you can be more decentralized or less decentralized. No, it's not. You either have a center or you don't. And if you have a center, it's centralized. Doesn't matter how obscure or how many levels of indirection you put into it. If you have a center, if you have somebody making decisions, if you have somebody issuing tokens, if you have somebody doing pre-mines, if you have anyone doing any of that, It's centralized. That's it. It's either a one or a zero. You're either centralized or decentralized. And because of all of this confusion around decentralization, oh, Bitcoin's not really decentralized. They try to put it on the spectrum and confuse the issue further by saying, oh, Bitcoin's not really decentralized. What we have is a few whales own a ton of Bitcoin, so that means that it's actually kind of centralized. That's not the definition of what decentralized means. And the confusion around all of this is exactly due to the people that want to benefit from confusing the issue, namely people that hawk altcoins, the people that are trying to sell their own coin and make it seem like it's the same as Bitcoin. It's nothing like Bitcoin. They use the same terms or whatever, but the fact of the matter is those altcoins are all centralized. Bitcoin is decentralized, and that confusion that you're talking about that normal people have is entirely due to the confusion that is seeded by all of the altcoiners that don't want people to understand this stuff. And as a result, they don't. And they get confused. Oh, so and so owns like 10,000 Bitcoins, which is a tiny percent of, all the Bitcoin out there. But they say, oh, if like they're thinking decentralized means like socialism or something where everyone has some equal number, or they can't have that's exactly not it. That's not what decentralization is. And it frustrates me that these lies continue to go about unabated and confusion reigns in this space, because there are a lot of people that would benefit tremendously by being able to save in Bitcoin, not the least of which are the poorest and most vulnerable people in the world. And the unfortunate reality is that there's a lot of people that would rather not help those poor and vulnerable people, that would rather confuse the issue and take advantage of them instead, and sell to them some altcoin that they created and keep pumping for their own benefit. And I think that's completely immoral. I think that's unconscionable. I think it's benefiting the few people that are hawking this stuff, that are marketing this stuff at the expense of the poorest and most vulnerable. And I don't understand how so many people don't see that, or refuse to see that, or continue to be in this space and act like they're doing something good when in fact they're actually ripping off poor people. Like I don't understand that.
Okay, I understand where you are coming from. Let's forget about the term decentralization. Let's just focus on the fact that a small group of people own a lot of Bitcoin and a lot of other people don't, because they haven't discovered it yet, because people are not fast to come to terms with technology. People take time. We've had Luddites in the past, right? So by the time the majority of people discover Bitcoin, they're not going to even have a chance at getting, as a meaningful portion of it.
Oh, well, what's meaningful? I mean, when you're saying, you're again making sort of a socialist argument. You're saying, oh, everyone should have a chance to get. You do have a chance. You could go buy right now if you wanted to. I think it's like $23,000 a Bitcoin. You can go and buy a whole Bitcoin. But if you're saying, well, whenever you get in, you should be able to buy one Bitcoin. That's ridiculous. That's a stupid argument. The adoption. Everyone sort of gets in at the price that they deserve. If you don't believe in it, or if you think, oh, okay, well, this thing's a scam and I'm not going to look into it, well, you deserve to get in at a much higher price because you didn't look into it. You didn't give it a chance. You didn't actually understand what the heck this whole thing is. But again, this is a very socialist mentality that, oh, everyone should have a chance no matter what. Like, despite there are people that have been criticizing Bitcoin since 2011, Peter Schiff, Paul Krugman, people like that. You think they should get in at like 20 years down the line when Bitcoin has taken over the world, that they deserve as much as Michael Saylor, who put in a lot of his own money, who promotes it and stuff like that? Absolutely not. where is this like this sense of justice coming from, that everyone should have an opportunity to get in at the exact same price? I mean, that's completely unfair. What these people want, with, oh, okay, well, so and so has so much of it, and therefore it's not fair. No, those people took a risk. It's entirely possible that they could have like lost all their money. In fact, like Michael Saylor's down right now. Like, to say, okay, well, it's not fair because he made so much money. Well, I mean, this is just capitalism. If you provide value to other people, then you get to save more money. That's just how it is. You don't get an equal portion. The guy playing video games all day in his mother's basement doesn't get to have the same amount of money as Jeff Bezos, who created Amazon. That's not how it works. And this again is a wrong, very confused sense of justice, a very confused sense of what economics should be. And it's almost entirely from socialism, communism, from the ideas of Karl Marx. And that's what I would tell them is, you don't understand. Like, your ideal world does not exist. It is not reality. And they don't obey the hard laws of economics. And for you to say it's not fair is, frankly, ridiculous, and your sense of moral right and wrong are completely off.
This is so funny though, because I didn't say it wasn't fair. I said these are some of the comments that I get from people who are looking into it and they need time to get their head around it. As a philosopher, I'm a Nietzschean, and I'm often actually accused of not being socialist enough. So it's really funny that you would call me a socialist, honestly.
No, I'm calling the people that are
Those
questioning
people.
a socialist. I'm not a big fan of Nietzsche either, but I mean, at least he had a sense of, okay, well, the people that, like, there's sort of like a distribution, and like to demand equality there is kind of stupid.
Yeah, but you're not talking
It's
about
not just.
equality. No, I'm not talking about equality. I'm talking about the fact that when there's a new technology, people need time to understand it. And when you can, um, you can imagine that when the whole economic system is against it, when governments are against it, when the whole media is against it, I find it quite difficult to like I've been explaining Bitcoin and crypto, to my friends since 2017, and people need time sometimes to figure these things out. And these are all questions that I get very often. The environmental impact is one of them, which I always explain to them, and I don't think we should go into that because I have created a lot of videos where I've explained about proof of work and and the environmental impact. I don't think that, to me, that's a non-issue, and I have explained it many times. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your story, Jimmy? How did you discover it? Like, what made you become such a big fan of Bitcoin?
Well, I'm a computer programmer. I'm a very technical person. So when I read about it in 2011, and being sort of libertarian and having studied some Austrian economics before then, post 2008, when I saw it, it just made sense. Now, not everyone has that reaction. And like kind of what you're talking about with, the people that are asking these questions, they don't have the right frame of mind or the right sort of economics training. They think that it should be, you should get stuff for free. They're very much in an entitlement socialist mindset. Honestly, a large portion of the world has been for a while now, because government has taken over so many of the functions that would normally be in a free market. So as a result, a lot of people aren't ready to receive Bitcoin. And I will take exception to your comment that, people need time or whatever. It's not that they need time, they need different beliefs, and they need the cold hard slap of reality to wake up. I've been telling people about this stuff since 2013. A lot of them don't get it or don't want to get it. It's not about understanding the technical limitations or the actual details of how it works. And that's honestly very overrated. However much you explain, what proof of work is, or how a transaction gets into a block, or fees, or the SHA-256 crypto hashing algorithm, or ECDSA. I mean, those things don't matter that much. There's a lot of Bitcoiners that don't understand things at that level of detail. The thing that people don't understand is the actual economic reality. And the way you frame this conversation is mostly as, oh, this is a new technology. I disagree. This is a new money. And that's it. Those two are very, very different things and have very, very different properties. And the people that get that this is a new form of money that is superior to any other form of money that has ever existed, those are the people that really get it and understand it and go and buy Bitcoin. The people that don't, well, they refuse to get it oftentimes. There are technical people that refuse to get in 2011, and they still don't own any. They don't need time. They need an understanding of how economics actually works. And the fact is, most of them don't. And they refuse to get it because they want to believe that things should operate a certain way. Maybe they have Keynesian beliefs or whatever, some socialist beliefs. The thing preventing them is not time, it is belief. And unfortunately, the way most people learn is by hard experience. It's by seeing how things actually are and being taught a lesson a few times. I mean, Peter Schiff still hasn't learned the lesson. He knew about Bitcoin in 2011 when it was less than $1, but he still refuses to get in. He still refuses, even though he has a lot of the right beliefs about what money should be, but he just refuses. There are lots of things preventing people, and it's not a matter of time or anything like that. It's just you need to understand reality. And if your economic viewpoint does not take Bitcoin into account, then you need to readjust for it. And most people aren't willing to go and do the hard work of figuring out what economics is, the first principles behind it, and really learn all of that so they can get in. For most people, it's either a gambling vehicle or something that they're not interested in because it doesn't align with their economic beliefs.
I understand. Do you think that your approach, people like yourself who are, super adamant about everything to do with Bitcoin, to a point that your demeanor sometimes can be very antagonistic and not very friendly. Do you think that people look at you and they see you as a representation of Bitcoin and they're like, this guy is not kind, like he's just angry at me, and because of that they're like, okay, if this is a representation of Bitcoin, I'm gonna walk away from it. A lot of people in the Bitcoin community are like that. What do you say to that?
That's fine. If they don't want to get in, they don't have to. We never ask for people to come in. We're telling you, here is a tool. Here's what it can do for you. If the fact that I say it this way turns you off, that's on you, honestly. If that's how you make your financial decisions based on who's nice to you and who's not, then I'm sorry, but you're probably going to make wrong decisions, because there are tons of scammers that will be as nice to you as possible and will go and take your money and you will lose all of it. But I'm here to tell you the truth. The fact is, I used to be a lot nicer about this stuff. The reason I'm not anymore is because no one listens to nice people. You can't argue people into something by being nice. You argue people into something, the few that actually care about the truth, with facts, with reason. And you told me that you're into philosophy and stuff. Well, that's the direction in which you're actually going to convert some people. But if my demeanor turns you off, money is not a democracy. It's not something that, oh, okay, let's vote for this money. And I'm not going to vote for you because you're not nice. That's not how this works. It's not politics. Now, it's been made very political because of fiat money. And because of fiat money, everything seems way more political than it actually is. The laws of economics are not political. They just exist. They're like the laws of physics. If you don't believe me and don't want to get in on this, well, again, that's on you. If my demeanor turns you off, I'm trying to turn you off to altcoins. I'm trying to save you from going down the path of degenerate gambling and the path of trying to rent seek the whole time. I'm trying to get you. I believe it or not, this is the most effective way that I found to actually get people to do something reasonable. But if you find that harsh or you don't like it, well, all right, then don't come. Again, everyone gets in at the price they deserve, and you could wait another 5 years, and maybe you'll blame me and say, "Oh, if Jimmy was just nicer, then I would have bought Bitcoin, but he wasn't." Again, that's not how you should make your financial decisions. If that is, then you're probably going to lose all your money because there's plenty of scammers that will take your money and run and will be as nice to you as you want. But I'm not here to do that. I'm not scamming. So I'm just going to tell you how it is.
That's cool. Okay, so people listening, look, I have Bitcoin. Don't shout at me, okay? I actually have Bitcoin, but I also have other things. I also have NFTs. Okay, so what would you say? I have written a few notes here. I'm gonna go through them one by one. So you said that if people don't listen because they find that you are, I don't mean just you personally, but Bitcoin maximalists most of the time, that they are too confrontational, maybe antagonistic sometimes. But you said that that's fine, let them not come in. So are you saying that we don't need the adoption? So are you saying that Bitcoin doesn't need the adoption?
I think adoption is inevitable, and it's not something that you have to rally for like a political issue. It's the hardest money, and the hard money wins. This is one of the conclusions if you study Austrian economics. The harder money wins, because if you have easier money, if you have money that can be created out of thin air, people will prefer the hard money to the easy money. They will always spend the easy money first. This is one of the things that you kind of have to wrap your head around in economics, but people don't want to believe that. They'd rather get free healthcare or free this and free that, and they want to believe that the system of economics that they exist in today is the correct one or something like that, and they don't want to actually critically examine things from first principles. So I mean, if that's their view, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to be taught by reality. You don't need the adoption of people that you don't need to nice them into Bitcoin. The way people come into Bitcoin is through the laws of economics. And when you see a pattern that we've seen for the last 13 years, where Bitcoin has continuously gone up despite all of the FUD against it, all of the meanness of people like me, I guess, that it continues to go up. And if at some point you're not asking, okay, what is going on here? What is this thing? Is it a 13-year tulip bubble, or is it something else? Or maybe I don't understand something. At that point, maybe you're ready. But if it's, why aren't you being nice to all these people? They might come into Bitcoin if you're nice enough. I don't believe that's how belief works. And even if that is how belief works for some people, they're going to be convinced out of it as soon as they find somebody nicer that will convince them otherwise. That's a very terrible foundation from which you should operate. That's not how money works. Let's just put it that way.
What do you say to people who look at other blockchain technologies and see an opportunity to, maybe they think of it as a hedge, just in case? They see that, like, just in case, maybe somebody wants to invest $100,000 in Bitcoin. They think to themselves, look, there are all of these issues and uncertainty. Maybe I put half of it into Bitcoin and half of it into other things that gives me a hedge against the possibility of something going wrong. What do you say to that?
And I would say that you have the wrong mental model for this whole thing. This is money. This is not a stock. This is not an investment. This is not a technology. Oh, who knows Who knows which of these 17 startups will win? This is not your favorite team for the English Premier League, and you're hedging on who might win the Premier League or something like that. That's not what this is. Money has a network effect. Okay, there was a time when people used rhinestones and seashells and silver even, but the world standardized on gold for a reason, because there's a network effect. The hardest, scarcest money wins, and that's what happened with gold. This idea that you need to hedge with all this other stuff, first of all, they're completely separate categories. Bitcoin is decentralized, altcoins are centralized. What you're talking about is, okay, well, maybe that other thing might win. Again, then you don't have a firm grasp of economics or how things work. And this idea that it's blockchain technology, that's all a crock anyway. If you actually study what it is and look at what quote unquote blockchain technology is, it's a linked list of blocks. And it's a subset of what we would normally call in tech database technology. It's not anything new. We've had that since the 80s, 70s even. To suppose that this is something radical and that it's something really cool or interesting, you just don't understand the tech then. The people that say that, almost inevitably, I'll be like, okay, then what's a blockchain? Just tell me what it is. Oh, it's a truth machine and it does this and it does that. It's like, no, it doesn't. I've written books on this stuff. I have a book, Programming Bitcoin, from O'Reilly. I describe exactly what a block is, what transactions are, what the signature algorithm is. I describe all of it. That's not what you think a blockchain is not what a blockchain is. And all these people that are, I need to hedge with this or that, all these people, so many smart people, they can't all be wrong. Yes, they can, especially if there's a financial incentive to be wrong and to confuse the issue and to make money off of you. And they're marketing to you a scam essentially. And this is the problem that I have with people that I've gotten responses like yours. Oh, but I own Bitcoin. I'm okay. But owning Bitcoin, I don't care what you own, right? Like you can own whatever you want. You can go invest in real estate. You can invest in whatever scam you want. The problem I have is when you start promoting other projects that are clearly scams. I don't care what you own. I'm a libertarian. You can go own whatever you want. If you want to own shares of penny stock or whatever, I don't care. I have no interest in making you buy or sell whatever. You do whatever is good for you. I don't care. Where I have a problem is when you start promoting other stuff. When you start saying stuff like NFTs are the new art or whatever, and it's not a giant scam run by VCs to basically enrich themselves. Well, yeah, this is where I have a problem, and this is where I start yelling, and this is where I start condemning people as being immoral, because what they're doing is they are propagating scams for their own financial benefit at the expense of the poorest and the most vulnerable people in the world. And I find that disgusting.
Okay, I understand. Look, the way I see it is that Bitcoin is a currency. Everything else is not a currency. I don't think we should call them currencies. They are tokens. And the way I see it is that these tokens are really similar to stocks, but they are like an evolution of shares or stocks in many ways. From that point of view, they're like a new way of sharing your IP. Like if you're a company, and you have fans or you have, users, that it's a way of rewarding them. That's what NFTs are about. It's about community building.
I disagree.
Okay.
I just straight up disagree.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Essentially you're saying, oh, well, it's something else or whatever. And, it has all these use cases. I've been watching this space for a long time. There's not a single use case.
But have you been in it though? Like to be watching it is different from being in NFT communities. When you are in those communities, I actually made videos about why I wasn't interested in NFTs. Like it was 8-9 months ago. And then when I did get into them, I saw that, okay, this is actually really interesting because this is a new way of community building. This is really an evolution of social media.
No, it's not. It's basically a centralized database with some rows that you can own or something like that. And that's really all it is. And you don't need a blockchain, you don't need a token, and you can go do it on somebody's website to make it seem like it's some this thing is amazing and it's brand new and something like that. No, I mean, what you said earlier is accurate. It's basically like shares in a company. It's another way of doing securities fraud or defrauding people of their money. And you call it community building, you call it whatever you want, but essentially you're taking people's money and rewarding them or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of Ponzi schemes where people felt like they had a great community. In fact, there's some that go on today, Amway and all those like multi-level marketing schemes. It feels like, oh, I'm part of this thing and we're getting together, and you wouldn't understand it unless you're actually in it, and you get to know all of these people and it's awesome. And it's like, no, actually you're enriching the founder of Amway or whoever the multi-level marketing scheme head honcho is, and they're just using you to go and make lots and lots of money under the guise of, oh, we're building a community and we're giving products or whatever. But at least Amway actually has real products that people actually use, like whether it's vitamins or shampoo or whatever. With altcoins and crypto or whatever, there's no value whatsoever. It's a digital plaything. It could just as easily be hosted on a SQL database or even in an Excel spreadsheet, but they make it out to be something completely different, that it's some newfangled technology, and people are so ignorant of the actual technicals underneath that they believe it, that it's something, and they're willing to be confused by the VCs that promote this stuff, that have a clear financial interest in making it seem like something that it's not. So for me, when you bring up all of these reasons for NFTs or whatever, they're completely ridiculous, and this is how scams work. And until people really understand that, like they continue sort of believing whatever they want to believe, which is that, oh yeah, my NFT that I bought for $20,000, it's going to hold its value or whatever, and that I'm not going to get scammed. There are already a bunch of lawsuits happening. I mean, what does that tell you? You paid for a row in a database, really? That's going to create community? No, it's all marketing, man, and it's
I agree that it's
unconscionable level of
marketing.
scamming.
I agree that it's marketing, but it's a new way of sharing your IP in a way. For example, if you hold a specific NFT, you own the right to that NFT, and you can go
You
out
own the
and
right
give
to a row in a database. You don't own anything other than that. And to say that it's actually IP, no, you don't get any protection. You don't have exclusive right to it or anything like that. If somebody uses it for t-shirts or something like that, you don't get royalties, and you don't have any rights to royalties. There's none of that. You don't get any, like, the thing that people think it is, it's not what it actually is. They think, okay, well, now I own this NFT, so therefore I get all the rights to it. And if somebody makes a t-shirt or a TV show or writes books on it, I'm going to get royalties or something like that. That is not the
you
case.
do,
You don't
but
get
you
you don't
do,
get anything.
you do though, you do.
Oh
Like,
yeah, have a court enforce it. Yeah, I mean, like, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because the way IP laws work is that you need the state to actually enforce it, and if they don't recognize your blockchain thingy or your database that says who owns what, then good luck. Because essentially IP laws are all enforced by the state anyway. So to say that, actually, no, you have the right to this, no, you have the right to nothing. The government gets to say whether or not that's violating copyright or whatever. And the thing is, and people in Bitcoin make fun of the people that do NFTs for that reason. They're like, hey, I right clicked and saved. You don't have anything. I could go and print this, post it on my wall. I could even sell whatever, and you have no recourse, because that IP laws are all enforced by the state. And there are lots of jurisdictions where IP laws don't even, aren't enforced or anything whatsoever. So you have no rights. That's a complete illusion. That's hopium at like the biggest level. You don't have any rights on that stuff. This is what we call in Bitcoin the oracle problem. Whenever you try to link some abstract thing that, or is a physical or abstract thing that's outside the blockchain, you need somebody to enforce it. And honestly, you need a state or something like that. It doesn't work. Your supposition that you suddenly get IP rights by whom? Unless you're the state and you run that blockchain, which they wouldn't. They would just have a central database, which is what they do with patents and copyrights at this point. Then you would have something that's an exclusive right. We can get into intellectual property later, but that's what they get to do. You don't have anything with a blockchain. Okay, like I have this NFT on Ethereum. Well, yeah, you have a row in the database. You have no rights to anything else.
So what do you say to the fact that you mentioned two things so far. One was about the fact that you said that those are shares in the company, and therefore you said that you're defrauding people by essentially giving them these tokens as what is essentially a form of the share in the company. My answer to that is that our security laws are just too ancient. They're just not suitable for this new era that we are going into. And I would say the same thing about our IP laws. So it's not the issue that these are defrauding, it's that culture and business is evolving with technology and the laws aren't. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I agree that the security laws are ancient, and I think IP laws are BS. But regardless of that, what you're doing is saying, okay, now we're gonna go and enforce. Okay, you have an NFT. Now, who's gonna go and enforce your quote unquote IP right? Unless you have the state behind you, it's completely useless. And that's what
Yes.
you don't have anything. You have zero. You have a row in a database, and it's a database further that somebody else controls. And it's not the government, it's not anyone with authority. It's just somebody that says, I'll sell you a bridge in Brooklyn, right? It's somebody that doesn't have any of those rights or any enforceability, selling you something that doesn't exist, essentially. That's fraud. Now, the other thing that you said was, hey, it's kind of like shares in a company, and we should have the right to do that. Well, I mean, great. If that's the case, then tell me exactly what I'm getting with that. And if you actually read the white papers and like all of the legal documentation that a lot of these coins essentially end up producing, it says you have no rights whatsoever, and that you are donating the money to them. And they continue to perpetuate this because essentially the VCs want to make lots of money. And they continue to get suckers that don't understand this stuff. And there's plenty of them, obviously, to continue to pump their bags. If it's a security, then you should say so instead of pretending it's something else. And if it's a share in a company or whatever, but I mean, like essentially what you're saying is a complete non sequitur. Yes, securities laws are ancient. Yes, IP laws are ancient, but this does not solve it. In the least, it doesn't do anything.
It's just that these tokens are a new form of sharing, ownership.
No, they're not. They're a centralized database. We already have centralized registries of who owns what stock or whatever, and when you transfer them or sell them or buy them or whatever, those all change. This is nothing new. You make it sound like it's this is a new form of doing this or new form of doing that. If you actually look at the technology, it's nothing of that kind. I mean, you sign things over by providing cryptographic proof, but it's not really essentially different than a click on Ameritrade or your broker's website and clicking sell on your on a stock that you own or something like that. It's not materially different. And this is the thing that all the altcoiners hawk is, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and this is what we're trying to do. Actually, like most of the promises never get kept. And essentially you end up with nothing, and you end up defrauding the poorest and the most vulnerable and the people that don't understand any of this stuff and just get in because they've been deceived. Essentially, that's fraud. I don't know how else to put it.
What do you say to the adoption, the community that is being built around these NFTs and Web3 essentially, and the adoption that it's getting because of the cultural connection that is making with people, that Bitcoin isn't making that, because Bitcoin is just money, and that's what we want it to be, right? Whereas these other things, these other innovations, that they are reaching people in different ways, that are culturally connecting with people.
I find that ridiculous. If that's your argument for why these things are valuable, that people are able to connect, there are people that connect over all sorts of stuff. Right? I told you before, you connect over Amway. Cults are apparently really, really good at creating community. You find your best friends at a cult or whatever. I mean, that's not an argument for why you should have this like massively fraudulent thing. That, oh, I found 5 friends doing this thing, therefore the whole thing is good because despite the massive fraud and lots of people losing money, it's fine because I made 5 friends. What kind of a stupid trade-off is that? That doesn't make any sense. So and the interesting thing is that is the main argument for altcoins that most altcoiners give is, oh, there's this community and, I get to participate in this stuff and that stuff. Yeah, you get to participate in lots of stuff, if, like in lots of different places, as long as you're giving them money. If that's what you want, go join a country club. It's probably cheaper than the amount of money that you put into an NFT or whatever. And at least you get like served food and you can play golf with your friends. Instead, you're bonding over a drooling monkey. Like, really? That's the value you're getting out of it. It seems so stupid. And in many ways, it is. The surprising and shocking thing for me is just how many people fall for this because VCs back it. And this is the thing that we haven't really talked about with Web3, NFTs, or metaverse, or whatever newest buzzword.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about metaverse, actually. This, like what you said there about how many people fall for a drooling monkey. I really hope that my editor puts that in the promo of this. That was so funny. It just made me laugh. But yeah, let's talk about the metaverse. So,
well, no.
Yeah,
I want to.
Okay.
Yes, it's a larger point. It isn't about the metaverse per se, but these are all buzzwords. Okay, these are all buzzwords to get people to be defrauded from their money. And there's a new one that comes out every 3 months or whatever. And unfortunately, people like you continue to promote these buzzwords by saying, oh, there's this new thing, metaverse, it's coming out and it's going to be on a blockchain and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to put all this data on there and it's going to magically give you lots of money by buying the metaverse token. And what I find completely disingenuous about all of this stuff is that these narratives come like every 6 months, and I have people that I know that sit in a lot of these boardrooms. They literally get in a boardroom, right? These altcoin founders, and say, okay, what's the next narrative that we can sort of set out for people so they buy our token and pump our bags. They literally just sit around and think of the next thing that they can do. And they'll come up with a narrative and do a huge marketing push. Oh, it's the next big thing and whatever. And this is not too far off from what VCs normally do anyway. Whenever they're invested in a startup, it's in their interest to go and pump it. The difference here is that there's absolutely no utility here. Instead, it's pumping a token. It's pumping sort of like the token that they've sold. The easiest question that you should ask is, why do you need a token? Why can't you do this with, other money, maybe Bitcoin? And they never have a good answer. They always have to have a token. And sometimes they'll say, well, we need to fund the developers. Well, that's not my problem. Why do you have this illiquid new token when you could use something that's way more liquid, way easier to go and get? Why are you putting all these hurdles on a product that's supposed to be this amazing magical thing? Don't you want wider adoption? No, what they want is for you to buy the token. That's the entire point of these narratives around Web3, metaverse, and NFTs, and DeFi, and ICOs and IEOs, and DAOs, or whatever. Like, this narrative has been going, and every 3 to 6 months, there's something new. I'm not going to get into, here, but metaverse can do this, metaverse can do that. Says who? And where's the actual evidence? And who's actually using it other than the people that own the token or are heavy bag holders of that token? Nobody. You look at the usage statistics of this stuff, and it's inevitably like zero. There's not somebody there out there going, you know what? I have this big problem. You know what the solution is going to be? I need to be on a metaverse. Oh, and you know what? The solution is going to be I need to go buy that token and go into this metaverse and do things that way. No one says that. This has been the thing that everyone that's been watching this space knows, is that the claims that these token founders make are worth zero. Like they never keep their promises. They just sort of like make up narratives to get people to buy tokens. And that's ultimately it. That's the entire game. And until you realize that, you're not going to see any of it clearly, especially if you have already owned some of that coin, because there's a natural tendency to want to believe whatever narratives you've been told. Oh, this coin's going to go to, 100x because, there's actually a use case. No, there isn't. I hate to break it to you, but I've been watching this for a long time. There's a lot of defunct projects where the founders walked away with $100 million, and you're just pumping their bags. You're giving them money. I mean, I don't know what else to call it than fraud. And like a lot of people think I'm being mean because I'm calling their coin a fraud or whatever. But I'm sorry, that's what it is.
What are your thoughts on the metaverse? Look, we are increasingly going to be living in a digital environment. And if we are living in a digital environment, we need digital ownership. And that digital ownership doesn't always need to be, or it's not even interesting for it to always be in a monetary form, which is the reason why people are developing things like NFTs and
that's not the reason. Again, the reason is because they're trying to basically sell useless stuff. They're selling snake oil. I think metaverse has potential. I think there's definitely things that you can do, and we have lots of them already. They're called MMORPGs, right? Like you already have centralized databases. You can go buy a nice sword on World of Warcraft. You can go get armor or whatever. You can get all sorts of things, and it's all different items, and some of them are even unique to that, like sort of universe or whatever. And that's totally fine. You don't need a blockchain for that. You just need like a central server. You need whatever. The reason why they have all this other stuff is so that they can get around security laws and not get like arrested or something. The reason why they do this is because they know that this is something that people will hold on to and say, well, if I want to be long metaverse now, so I'll go get this token. If you're long metaverse, go to the actual companies that are making that stuff. Facebook's invested a ton of money on Oculus, and you can go and do that or whatever, and they'll probably have a database where you have like a unique T-shirt that some Facebook designer made within that metaverse. Then fine, go buy that from that person, and they'll probably maybe take a small transaction fee or something and figure out a way to monetize it. The answer is not a token or a blockchain. It doesn't add anything. And in fact, it just obscures the issue and makes it much, much more difficult. I've written many articles on the difficulty of incorporating blockchain to almost any technology. And fact of the matter is, it makes it about 100 times more difficult. So you tell me how that is actually like being long metaverse, because honestly, all these like terms and stuff like that to make it seem like you're long on artists by being on by buying an NFT. That's not the case whatsoever. And if you actually understand the technicals, you would know it pretty fast.
Last question though. So when you are saying that if you are long metaverse, so you're suggesting if you're long metaverse, just go and buy Facebook stocks, Meta stocks?
I don't know, maybe. I don't,
because the whole
haven't
point
studied
is
that.
it's just that we are trying to get away from that. Facebook owning all of our data and to be reliant on Facebook for all of that. This is one of the reasons why people are trying to create metaverses that are decentralized.
Well, first of all, it's not decentralized because somebody's issuing the token. So to pretend that this metaverse token suddenly makes it decentralized is a complete misunderstanding of what the heck this whole thing is. And again, we go back to the beginning. This is the confusion that VCs sow with all of these people. Oh, it's like what Facebook's doing, except it's decentralized. It's not anything like that. You're just giving money to a different set of people that want to take your money and run and not develop anything. At least Facebook's actually going to update the firmware on an Oculus or even release an Oculus. With these people, they're not going to release anything. They don't have any obligation to. They're not accountable to anybody. Their products don't even have to work. So this notion that, we're going to have a decentralized thing that's a competitor to Facebook. No, it's a completely centralized competitor who has a large blockchain around their neck. And it's a heavy burden. It's an albatross around your neck because you can't develop anything. If you ever tried developing anything on any of these platforms, you know how difficult it is and how unrealistic it is for any of these things to come to pass that the VCs promise. It's not decentralized at all. It's completely centralized. The issuer of the token, they're responsible for building the entire metaverse out. It's way worse than Facebook because they don't have to deliver anything. They're not accountable to anybody, and they're just going to walk away with the money. And thanks for the $100 million that all of the retail investors gave to us. And we didn't even release like a base product or anything like that. This is what you're talking about, and this is the confusion around the issue. It's not what you think it is.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy, for sharing all these perspectives. This is very interesting, and I would like to actually take this last part of what you said about the metaverses. I'm going to send it to the people from, for example, Decentraland and Sandbox Dark. Also,
well, so you're sending it to somebody, right?
I want to send it to them, and I want them to come on the podcast and answer that.
What? No, but think about it. They're the centralized party. You're sending it to somebody that's quote unquote in charge. Well, that's prima facie evidence that it's centralized.
I understand.
If it was decentralized, you'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna post it on somewhere, and somebody will pick it up, and they'll figure out and come on.
No, these are companies. They are still companies, right? And
they issued the token, so it's their company, it's their token, it's their whatever.
The idea is
pretend that it's decentralized when you're giving it to the person that is in charge, tells you everything you need to know. That's centralized. It's you don't need to even have them on the show. The fact that you're sending it to the centralized party proves my point.
Yeah, yes, I understand what you're saying, but the argument that they often make is that having these tokens gives you voting right, and it gives you some level of input, that type of thing. So
it's like the shares in a company then.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
In which case it's still centralized. It's not some decentralized competitor to Facebook. Don't we want to get away from Facebook and have no one own it? No, the Decentraland people own it, or whoever they sold the tokens to, or whatever VCs bought a ton of it. And the thing is, they don't have to deliver anything to, and you can send it to them. I'm sure you'll have a very fun conversation telling your audience how wrong I am. But listen to the first principles. Is it centralized or decentralized? The fact that they control the token, they issued the token, they sold the token, they pre-mined the token, that's all the evidence you need. It's centralized, and to pretend otherwise is all theater, and it's all fraud. So what they're going to say is lie after lie after lie to get you to buy the token, to give some doubt to what I've actually said, but I'm coming from first principles.
Okay. No, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. I still want to hear, I want them to hear this and answer to that. Thank you so much, Jimmy. This has been really, honestly, it has been a lot of fun. Okay, it has been a lot of fun. I think that people will find it really interesting to listen to. and they can make up their mind for themselves. They can also listen to other people's, arguments. There is something that I have experienced by being in various NFT communities and experiencing other communities within the blockchain space that when I talk about them, I talk about them from experience. There is a real community. There is a new culture being developed, and I have just as much, if not more, respect for Bitcoin, because for me, Bitcoin has been the originator of this. And the way I see it is that people look at Bitcoin, or other founders and innovators look at Bitcoin, and then they gain inspiration, and then they go and iterate on that. So technology doesn't stop in one place. You can't say that, okay, this is where it stops. Like it's kind of like saying, okay, gold was the last kind of money technology that we had. Like we can't have anything else. This is just human exploration and human.
Well, if they were trying to build better money, then they'd need the property of decentralization first, which they don't have. So in a sense, like if your argument is they're trying to improve Bitcoin by centralizing it, well, then you've taken away the most effective property, the most important property. That's a really dumb and stupid trade-off. And
I don't think
that's
that they are. I mean, other than Ethereum people saying that ETH is ultrasound money, most of the other tokens and other people who are doing things on the blockchain, I've never heard them think or say that
But
what they
that's the
have
argument you just
is
made.
money.
Is it's technology and it needs to improve, and they need to go and do other things with it. I told you already that blockchain technology is a crock, that it doesn't make anything easier. It doesn't magically add decentralization to anything. So really, it's decentralized in name only. It's a way to hawk tokens. It's a way to scam people out of their money. So this technology that we're advancing technology with all these tokens and things is a complete mischaracterization of what the space is actually doing. What they're doing is issuing tokens so they can take money from retail. That's it.
I did say last question, but I guess the question I have in response to what you just said is that, are you saying that one should not even look at these technologies and consider investing
Well,
in them in any way?
there's no technology there. So yeah, when you shouldn't look at scams. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
And like they'll give you lots of fun, fancy buzzwords and this and that, but really it's all theater. I've looked into I've studied
Why do
this
you
stuff.
think then? Why
Actually,
do you,
and it's there's nothing there, but there are enough people with enough buzzwords and enough people willing to like sort of sacrifice their own credibility. Like Hodgkinson, for example, right? Like he had some computer science background, but there's a lot of people that are willing to do that for money, right? Like there's a price at which these people will go and do whatever. And in a sense, I can't blame him, because if money's your priority, he's made probably like $1 billion off of Cardano. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you keep doing it? And you're gonna FUD people like me, tell me that I'm wrong and call me an idiot or whatever, and try to induce doubt as much as possible, because then it becomes a matter of he said, rather than an exploration of what the actual technology is. Go look at it. Don't trust me. Go figure out what the actual technical stuff is. Go on GitHub, examine the code line by line. What the hell does it do? There are very few people that are willing to do that, or even have the capability. But you have the ability to do that with a lot of these projects. Now, if it's closed source, I can't help you. I think there's several altcoins where they don't even publish the source code, in which case you're completely trusting whoever is in charge. And yeah, don't tell me that's not decentralized. That's decentralized. This is what we're talking about. Is there's a complete confusion about everything, because there's incentive on the part of the people hawking these tokens to confuse the issue. It's people like Jimmy are wrong. Why? Well, because they're wrong. And I have this computer science degree or whatever. Like go look at any debate between like an actual altcoiner and a Bitcoiner. And if and just listen to the argument and not be sort of like so invested on one side and saying, oh, I own this altcoin, so I'm gonna, listen with that particular thing. go look at the actual usage of this stuff. Verify everything that I am saying, because I haven't said anything that you couldn't find out yourself just by going and examining the code, going and examining like even read the white paper or the prospectus or whatever, and like all of this stuff. It's you can go verify it yourself. Don't trust me. I'm not telling you anything that's not true.
Definitely. Yes. So we are all going to go, and I'm definitely going to be looking into everything that you said a lot more. Why do you think companies like Facebook, for example, are incorporating NFTs into their in Facebook and Instagram?
I have no idea what they're doing because I don't pay attention to Facebook. And if they're doing quote unquote NFTs, whatever. I mean, I like that's up to them. I have no idea why they would make certain corporate decisions. I generally don't tend to agree with a lot of what they do. But anyway, but I have no idea. The thing that I will tell you not to do is just go talk to a friend about it, and who's already invested, and they'll tell you, oh, Jimmy's just wrong, and then go trust that. Like that's not verifying at all. Just like go and look at it yourself, examining it for yourself, go from first principles. What should money be? Go study economics, go figure out like what the iron laws of economics are. Like, don't just go and say, oh, well, but Jimmy says this, Hodgkinson says this, the truth is probably somewhere in between. No, there's an objective truth, and it could be anywhere. But you need to do the work instead of trusting some influencer on Twitter or something like that. And the sad fact is most people don't want to do the work, and therefore they will continue to get robbed blind.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your input, Jimmy. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. And I hope that everybody takes your advice. I will definitely take your advice, and I will continue. Look, I have read so many books on Bitcoin anyway, and I have listened to all of you guys. The way I see it is that I understand everything you're saying about Bitcoin from a monetary point of view, but I also see an interesting thing happening in the NFT space, in the Web3 space, from a cultural and business perspective. I see a new way of community building. I see it as a new iteration of social media, an evolution of social media, and I think technology is going to continue to evolve. So I don't think we can say this is where it needs to stop. People will continue to explore. And
there's no technology there. And I really don't think you've looked at the technology enough, because your argument always comes back to there's a community. There's communities around lots of things. There are Nazis that get together and find community. There are people that have all sorts of reasons for getting in community. NAMBLA, right? Like,
yeah, but in the metaverse, you need tokens to create token-gated communities so that you can share IP. I know, like all of the things that we went through.
You could do it in a centralized way, way cheaper. The thing is, you don't need any of this stuff. And the quote-unquote technology isn't advancing at all. And it's all a scam to get you out of your money. And again, cults have great communities. There's lots of really weird and stupid things that have great communities. That doesn't prove anything. And there's nothing new about any of this stuff. It's all scammy. And that's what I've been saying the whole time. Again, don't take my word for it. Go look, because the community didn't come out of the token. The community didn't come out of any of that. The community came out of a lot of marketing, a lot of people getting paid for this and that. That's where that community comes from. And if you had motivated people and you pay them, maybe you can do the same thing without any of this nonsense, and it'd be a hell of a lot cheaper. But that's not what people are interested in. So I'm sorry, but that's just not true. There's no technology advancing here.
Awesome. Okay, look, let me look into it and research it a bit more. Maybe we will talk again in a few months.
Okay, well,
all right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Jimmy. Bye. Take care. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jimmy Sung. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Whether you agree or disagree with his views on Web3 and the rest of the crypto space, you have to give him credit for his knowledge and understanding of Bitcoin. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, or any other one of your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and write a review. The full interviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.